So there we go. Yep. Here we go.
Do you have yours on yet? Derek, you need
I'm
more
having trouble
time to
with
get
my
ready.
internet.
Are
I can't.
we ready?
I'm ready now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm pressing
Yeah.
completely
Yeah,
down.
give us a second. He's got it. There's like a 20-second lag.
Yeah. All right. We will start our Monday, March 9th meeting with a moment of silent prayer. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And treasurer call the roll.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Benton?
Here.
Mr. Frazier?
Here.
And reading of the notice.
This is a public meeting of the Board of Education for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. Upon request of the superintendent, the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with a disability to be able to participate in this activity. A recording shall be made of each meeting of the board as administrative aid and shall be preserved as public documents of the board.
And any additions or deletions?
I do not have any.
All right. Can I get a motion to adopt?
So moved.
I'll second. Thank you. Call roll.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Pass that down.
And public remarks
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, we got a list.
Sure. And first up, are you speaking, Mary?
Yes.
You are first on our list. Welcome.
Can I lower this?
Yes.
Very short. Okay. All right. Hello. I'm Mary Mongold with my husband. We have 4 children that live in the district, ranging from elementary school all the way up into entering high school next year. With that, we have a lot of experience in the district, and from our opinion, and I'm proud to say our experience has always been amazing, and I, for one, am sad to see you leave and move on. There is an exception to that, and I'm here today to talk about that. I'm here today asking for the conversation to be opened up to change our current uniform-style dress code into a traditional dress code similar to those of our neighboring peers. Certainly, I cannot address all of my concerns and countless hours of research in 3 minutes, but I will express a few today in hopes that the parent concerns and input will be taken seriously. We are not a group of loud, angry moms complaining on Facebook. We're real members of this community, a community in which some of you, all of you, have campaigned to earn a seat at the table you're at now. We don't come to you to be adversarial or create friction. We're here because we often hear that nobody comes to these meetings and brings this issue to you. And that it's only a few people that really have a problem with this dress code. And I'm here to say that's not true. Although we know emails have been sent, our presence here today hopefully will show you that we are serious. We would like to be taken seriously, and we hope that our presence here today will show you just that. We're asking to be taken seriously not only our point of view, but also our desire to have input in the clothing that our children are forced to wear as parents or forced to spend money on. We are now the only public school in Licking County that has a dress code that dictates to parents what fabrics, patterns, and colors to dress their children in, as well as the only school in Licking County to require a collared shirt in order to receive an education in our district, with other schools citing their change to focus attention on student learning, not what students are wearing. Unfortunately, our state grade cards will reflect that the performance of our students does not rise above our neighboring schools that offer students the ability to dress in clothes that make them feel comfortable and confident. There is an old adage that says if you dress good, you feel good, you perform good. Although I would agree with that general concept, there's an important distinction to be made. Who decides who looks good? What you as board members have deemed looks good, in reality makes many children feel silly and awkward. They don't feel good, and so they don't look good, they don't feel good, they're not performing good. I don't have time today to touch on the amount of time that teachers and administration are spending policing our current dress code instead of teaching. This is a real concern that isn't being talked about enough. Not enough conversations made available asking for teacher input and their concerns. And when brought up to board members, the response I've heard from some are, they can go teach anywhere else. This is not okay. We are asking that our dress code be updated to not include a collar, not restrict colors, fabrics, patterns, etc. We're requesting that the dress code of other public schools in our areas be reviewed by all board members, superintendent, principals, and community input together to form a new dress code policy that still provides structure that the district desires, but one that mimics a traditional dress code that other public schools are allowed to wear, that offers a place where students can feel comfortable and confident.
Kevin, are you speaking as well? Okay.
Is there a clock, or am I just gonna, somebody gonna wave me down if I
I'll
go
call
to?
time.
Perfect, thank you. Well, thank you for your time today. My name is Kevin Mongold. I'm the proud parent of 4 current Johnnies. I would like to ask the school board for clarity regarding the appropriate process for submitting public information requests from the district. Where should parents and community members go to get documented answers to questions regarding district data or the data itself? I personally would like to be informed on what protocols and statutory guidance the school board relies on to ensure that the district dress code policy and its enforcement does not create potential civil liability related to discrimination, disparate impact, or bias based on factors like age, gender, disability, or financial status, specifically in regards to collar requirements, color, fabric, and pattern restrictions. To understand this, I have questions like the following. What representation does the school board leverage today in its policy decisions to understand the dress code's impact on current families enrolled with a current special needs student, a current female high school student, a current female middle school student, a parent of multiple female students? What representation does the school board leverage today in its policy decisions to understand the dress code's impact on current families enrolled from a teacher's perspective at each of the high school and middle school? What were the originally stated goals of the dress code from the school board when it was established in 2008? How are these goals measured then and now by the school board? What timeline did the school board originally establish in 2008 to review and assess the impact of the dress code policy? Where to find a documented list of dress code policy changes that the school board has approved each year since the established school board policy in 2008? How are dress code policy changes tracked by the school board against the originally stated policy goals in 2008? What resources are used by the school board to benchmark dress code policy goals and impact in comparison to other schools in the area? Which, if any, schools the school board has identified as our benchmark cohort in regards to dress code policy? Which, if any, industries and professional organizations the school board monitors for dress code changes to ensure our dress code is current with post-graduation expectations? And I have more, and I will bring those next time, but my question really is there someone to connect with to understand where to submit these questions to get meaningful answers? Thank you.
Mr. Monko, do you have an extra copy of your
I can email it.
questions? Yeah, if you
Yep.
could, because it'll be easier for us, and then we can take your questions, and it's, you know, we're trying to record, but it'll be easier
Yep.
to have that, and then we'll
Yep, I
follow
can do
up
that.
with you, okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Brittany Null.
Okay. Good evening. I am also here to speak about the school dress code and why it may be time to reconsider them. I was an 8th grader when we first implemented this dress code, and I can say that it has never been favorable by the students. While the uniforms are often, or dress code is often introduced with good intentions, the reality for many families and the students is more complicated. First, one of the biggest issues is consistency. The expectations for uniforms are not always the same across the middle school and the high school. Rules about what is allowed, what fabric is acceptable, or what counts as appropriate can change from building to building. This creates confusion for families who may have children in multiple schools. When policies aren't consistent, it makes it harder for parents to know what to buy and harder for students to understand what is expected of them. Second, I would like to talk about the financial burden uniforms or this dress code can place on families, especially single income households such as myself. Uniform clothing is often more expensive than regular clothes, and it usually has to come from specific stores or brands. But the cost doesn't stop there because kids are still growing. They grow very quickly, and that means we're not just buying uniforms once at the beginning of the year. We're buying them again and again as our children grow. This year alone, I have personally had to buy school clothes and home clothes 3 times because my child has decided she wanted to grow 5 inches since August. For many families, again, such as myself, managing already tight budgets, this adds up very quickly. Another issue that deserves attention is how uniform policies can unintentionally affect students' confidence and body image, particularly for our girls. Uniform clothing is typically made from the same fabric and cut for everyone, but bodies are not made the same, and what fits one student comfortably may not fit as another student comfortably. As a girl who was considered larger when this was implemented, I remember how uncomfortable that could feel. So while I was wearing the same clothes as everybody else, it didn't make a difference. And my daughter's best friend is currently experiencing the same issues, and it's not fair. It is not fair. So I will digress. So another situation is I feel like our expectations are unreasonable. We are teaching our kids
30 seconds.
to be better adults, and I have never worked in an environment where we are required to wear collars. Business casual would be something I would feel is expected for a school uniform or school dress code, where they wear jeans or t-shirts as long as it refrains from obscenities or being too revealing. And I think that is what we should consider for our students. Thank you.
Betsy Porter.
Good evening, school board members. To introduce myself, I'm Betsy Porter. I am a mother of 3 Johnstown Middle School students. I want to shed light on the psychological effects of school uniforms on teenagers. While uniforms are intended to promote tradition, unity, and discipline, their impact is complex and affects self-identity and the mental health of our students. True uniforms can foster belonging and reduce social hierarchies. However, Johnny wear, which the district officials state is not a uniform or a dress code, may have room for misinterpretations and even bullying. For example, my son was bullied for this type of material versus this type of material. Both are polos, but yet was bullied relentlessly about this specific material. If the term Johnny wear was replaced with uniform or dress code, this would require the school board to follow Ohio Revised Code 3313.665, which states in Ohio, public school members are authorized to adopt a school uniform policy and dress code to promote safe and effective learning environments. Such dress codes policy must include input from staff and parents. They must provide a 6 months notice before practice and offer assistance to economically disadvantaged students. Mandating uniform attire can limit teens' self-expression, potentially lowering self-confidence and causing stress, which is noted as a number of factors of psychiatric and mental health issues. Research published in 2022 at The Ohio State University found uniforms do not enhance academic progress as previously hoped. Instead, restrictive policies like Johnny wear will increase stress and negative impact in self-esteem and mental health. A 2019 meta-analysis highlights that when students have more freedom in attire, they achieve better psychological outcomes, including body acceptance, identity development, and healthier peer relationships, thus developing a value system that predicts lower psychological symptoms over time. For example, my youngest daughter, who has since graduated into the 6th grade, no longer creates personalized clothing, which she used to love to do. She is quoted, "There is no point. I can't wear it." Her creativity has been stifled and forced to live in a suffocating box of conformity dictated by an untraditional 19-year school district policy. Where's my cursor? While uniforms create community, they also hinder individuality, creativity, identity, and self-worth in students. I encourage you, board members, to consider the psychological impacts and involve all stakeholders in discussion about dress codes, aiming for community satisfaction. So what will it be? Fully embrace the true uniform and disband the term Johnny wear, or allow students to individualize and promote a comfortable educational experience? How a student and their guardians seem fit. Thank you for your time.
Ashley McFadden.
My name's Ashley McFadden. I have 3 incredible daughters who are students at Johnstown-Monroe in 2nd, 4th, and 10th grade. I'm here today to kindly request a review of our current policy regarding the school dress code. Having lived here for 6 years now, it's clear that the current dress code, or Johnny Wear policy, is a burden for students, parents, and staff alike. My oldest daughter started school here in 6th grade, nervous but excited for middle school. We went shopping for the approved types of clothes, and although she was annoyed at the rules surrounding what students could and couldn't wear, the idea of being dress coded was terrifying for a rule follower like Lily. She put a lot of thought into her outfits every day and would wake up about 5 or 5:30 in the morning to make sure to have enough time to get ready, wear the correct articles of clothing, and to get to school on time. Nevertheless, she was dress coded. Sometimes it was due to the fiber content of the clothing. Sometimes it was because the color wasn't considered just right. Other times it was the cut or the style of the garment to blame. And sometimes it was what seemed like nonsense. It took time away from class, put even more pressure on physical appearance at a time when the way students look is already too big a stressor. And it seemed to be very heavily biased towards girls and what they were wearing, as boys were very rarely dress coded. She played basketball and ran track, but neither uniform was school appropriate, and the spirit wear we bought for our athlete couldn't be worn at school either. Throughout middle school, she continued to insist on only allowing me to buy clothes that were well within the rules, often nixing my suggestions if they were even the slightest bit ambiguous, for fear of misinterpretation by school staff. My straight-A student earned many dress-down days, but towards the end of middle school, she ignored them completely and didn't participate because she would almost always receive a dress code violation for the outfit she chose on what should have been a reward day. When she went to DC with her class in 8th grade, they were miserable because of the heat and looked out of place by all the other schools they saw wearing normal, weather-appropriate clothing. Now she's a sophomore at JHS, and she no longer wakes up early, excited to get ready for school. She brings extra clothes in her book bag because she knows someone will take issue at some point during the day, and she's usually right. On many occasions, she's been dress coded and switched clothing with a friend, only to have that friend go the rest of the day with no problems. Her motivation to follow the rules is gone. She has tried her best, and it wasn't enough, over and over again. I've watched my bright-eyed, happy girl turn into a reluctant and skeptic sophomore who struggles to find the motivation to care when the outcome is so often the same. She's singled out for reasons she can't foresee in front of her peers and essentially told that the way her body looks in clothing is paramount to class instruction time. I know this is not what our dress code was designed for, but this is what it's evolved to. I know that our students, especially our girls, don't want to be told that they are in trouble based on a technicality, a difference in hue, or because their bodies are a distraction. I know that our teachers and our staff don't want to be spending their time telling kids that what they chose to wear today doesn't fit within the narrow guidelines of our handbook. My hope is that we can work together as a community to come up with a new dress code that works for everyone, one that allows kids to be confident on their way to school in the morning, one that allows teachers to focus on the million other things that they do for our kids on a daily basis, and one that we as parents can understand, respect, and support. Thanks for your time and for your consideration.
Lillian McFadden.
Hi.
My name is Lillian McFadden, and I'm a sophomore in high school, and I take issue in the dress code, and I'm going to cover a couple of my personal reasons why tonight. Not to say that I disagree with having a dress code whatsoever, but I would like to say that the state of our current one is flawed. One of the issues with the dress codes as it stands is that there is unequal enforcement. The dress code is not enforced for a large majority of my peers and classmates. I often see a certain type of student getting stopped for their outfits when they aren't the only ones wearing that exact thing. I myself wore a dress once and got dress coded, and the next day my friend wore the same one and she did not get dress coded. This has nothing to do with the clothing that we're wearing, and it's more about who the person that is wearing them is. It singles out people based on things that have nothing to do with their clothing, and such as their physical attributes. Secondly, there's a distraction from learning. Being pulled from class, getting called down to the office, and interrupting in the passing period cause a lot of anxiety and stress on not only myself, but for everyone I know. I constantly see people worrying about whether their outfit will get them in trouble instead of focusing on class. The lack of consistency creates an environment where students feel like they're being watched and judged rather than being educated. This is not only embarrassing and distracting, but for them, but for everyone around us. Instead of helping us focus on learning, these interruptions make school feel more stressful for everyone involved. Lastly, another issue is that dress codes are embarrassing and uncomfortable because they are enforced differently depending on how someone's body looks in certain clothes. Two students can wear the exact same outfit, but one person whose body draws more attention will be the one who gets dress coded. That can make students feel like they are being judged for their body rather than what they're actually wearing. It can also make people feel singled out for something they can't control. Situations like that can be really uncomfortable and embarrassing, especially when it happens in a place meant for education. It sends a message that certain bodies are more inappropriate than others, even when clothing is completely the same. I'd like to close with a thanks for your time and willingness to hear my side of it. Thank you.
Kaylee Kaiser.
My name's Kaylee Kaiser, and I've lived in this district for a little more than 13 years. Many of you may be familiar with me because I have been a vocal advocate of changing the dress code since my kids entered middle school about 8 years now. In fact, I found my first email to the school board at the time and the superintendent at the time in 2021. I'm speaking today to continue to advocate for that change. In fact, last year, another parent put a survey out and the findings were shared with Dr. Wagner, the middle school and high school administration, and a group of parents in a meeting. As I was lucky to be included as one of those parents, I thought I would share those findings with you today, as it is pretty inclusive of the frustrations that parents have with the current dress code. So here are the common themes and frustrations from the community survey that was done in fall of 2024. Flexibility and comfort. Many respondents emphasized the need for more flexibility of the dress code. They argue that the current policies create discomfort, limit personal expression, and are often impractical for students. There's a call for clothing that is both comfortable and conducive to learning without being overly restrictive or uncomfortable. Gender inequality and discrimination. A recurring theme involves the perception that the dress code disproportionately targets female students with stricter rules for them compared to male students. Many express concerns that the code sexualizes young girls' clothing choices and imposes unfair standards, such as stricter enforcement on girls' attire or restrictions on styles that don't fit certain body types. Financial burden. The cost of purchasing uniforms or additional clothing to meet dress code standards is another common complaint. Many families note the financial strain of needing 2 separate wardrobes, one for school and one for personal use. Additionally, the high cost of specific clothing required for school is cited as a barrier for some students, especially those from lower income families. Lack of body, well, on that part too, I've actually seen posts where people are going to take their kids out of this district because of the dress code. Just putting that out there. Lack of body diversity and fit. Many parents and students note that the dress code doesn't take into account the diverse body types of students. Clothing options for various body shapes and sizes, particularly for girls and plus-size students, are often limited, and finding clothes that fit well and meet dress code requirements is a significant challenge. Impact on mental health and anxiety. Several comments focus on the negative impact of strict dress code. So there's mental health and anxiety, focus on education, not appearance. We really need to focus on education, as Mary mentioned. Uniforms and alternatives, inconsistency of enforcement, inclusivity and sensory needs, support for change. I just think that we would like to show that we really would like change. It's been too long, way too long. Thank you.
Sarah Porter.
Good evening, Board. My name is Sarah Porter. I've been in the district since 2016 when my oldest was in 4th grade. I have 3 children that are in the middle and high school now, so I've been with the district for quite some time. And rather than a prepared speech like anybody else brought, I wanted to share with you an anecdote. As I was sitting in 6th grade orientation with my oldest, and they were discussing Johnny-ware and its importance, I was told the beginning of this tradition, and it horrified me. Because the beginning of this tradition was that a teacher could look out across our students and automatically tell which person didn't belong because they weren't wearing Johnny-ware. Now let me give you why that was horrifying. All of this entire dress code is online where anybody has access to it. It took less than 5 minutes to find it, and it's simple. It's a polo, it's khaki pants. Everybody has access to this. But I'll take it one step further. My partner is a Columbus police officer. He is often called to the school districts on his precinct and has said the danger to the students are not our outsiders who don't belong. They are the students themselves toward each other. The fights that he sees in Columbus school districts, not in a place like Johnstown, it's the fights amongst students. It's the fights that escalate and then the police need to get involved. So when I'm looking at the tradition that I've been asked to speak about that is Johnny-ware, it brings to mind a quote by Brandon Sanderson. But merely being a tradition does not make something worthy. We cannot just assume that because something is old, that it is right. So I am here amongst the other parents tonight to petition you to adjust the dress code for us and for our students. Thank you.
Amanda Pennington.
Hi. So unlike most everybody else, we are new to the district. This is only for my oldest, it's his first year in the district, and for my my second child, he's been here for 1.5 years. I have 2 other students who will later become Johnnies as well. I'm just going to go ahead and read what I wrote now. I'm the parent of a 12-year-old student in this district. I'm here tonight to share concerns about the current school dress code and how it affects students with autism and sensory processing challenges, and I apologize in advance if I cry. My oldest son spent 2 years being homeschooled and returned to the classroom this year by his choice. Bringing him back into school was a very difficult decision for our family. In fact, we really considered open enrolling him in another district. The main reason for that consideration was the dress code requirement. My son has autism spectrum disorder and learning disabilities. School has not always been easy for him, academically or socially, so returning to the classroom was a big step. One of our biggest concerns during that transition was clothing. We were not aware of the clothing requirements when we moved into this district. For children with sensory sensitivities, clothing is not simply a preference. Textures, seams, collars, waistbands, and certain fabrics can cause real physical discomfort and anxiety. Since the beginning of the school year, we have already faced multiple struggles. My son has refused to wear the shorts we purchased, refused certain shirts because the collar feels too large or the fabric bothers him, and refused pants because they suddenly became uncomfortable. Many mornings start with him not wanting to go to school, not because of school itself, but because of the dress clothing he is required to wear. What makes this especially difficult is that he actually enjoys school in almost every other way. But the dress code requirement creates stress for him at least once a week, and often the anxiety starts as early as Sunday evening when he begins worrying about what he will have to wear the next day. In addition to the sensory challenges, the dress code policy can create a financial burden for families. When a child cannot tolerate certain fabrics or styles, parents often end up purchasing multiple versions of the same item, hoping to find something their child can wear. In our case, we have already purchased several dress code items that
30 seconds.
ultimately could not be used due to sensory discomfort. My intention is not to criticize the purpose of the dress code. However, I respectfully ask the board to consider adding flexibility or accommodations for students with documented sensory needs. As parents, we want our children to attend school consistently, and feel comfortable in their learning environment. When something as simple as clothing becomes a barrier to attendance and well-being, it's worth asking whether small adjustments could make a meaningful difference. Our children experience only one childhood. I hope we can create policies that support their ability to learn without unnecessary barriers. Thank you.
And Raquel Radcliffe.
Okay. Oh, I need to wait. Are we taking too much time?
No.
We're fine.
He's just
We're
asking
good.
for contact information about staff, about the.
I was just joking, actually.
No, we're fine. Take all
He's
the time
asking
you
about
need.
contact information.
Okay. Tell me when you're ready for me. All right. First, I want to start by saying thank you. I've watched this team of professionals grow over the past 12 years. To our new administration, thank you for your work and you've been doing in math and reading. I truly appreciate the focus on helping kids learn to read. I look forward to the day when every child where I live can read. Tonight, though, I'm not here to talk about reading or scores. I'm here to talk about the school dress code and the ways it has affected my family. To protect the privacy of kids like mine, I'm going to talk about myself. Imagine that. I'm a neurodivergent person, and sometimes I experience extreme discomfort in my body. Learning in a building with bright lights and loud sounds can already be really difficult. Being required to wear clothing that works for some, but not for me or people like me, just adds another barrier. When my sensory system is in overload, a lot can happen. I can't regulate my body temperature. Waistbands and collars start to feel so irritating that it takes over my ability to focus. I get migraines, I get intense anxiety, and honestly, it's exhausting. Yes, I can push through it. I do it every day. No, it won't kill me. But pushing through sensory discomfort doesn't make learning easier. It just makes learning harder. Sorry. Another concern is that there is no clear formal process for students who struggle with clothing because of sensory needs. I personally know 2 children who didn't graduate from our district. There were many reasons for this, but I also know sensory needs were never fully supported in the way that allowed them to feel comfortable in the building. The current dress code also creates a divide between families who can easily access approved clothing and families who can't. Right now, there aren't really equitable solutions for families who struggle to provide approved clothing. Just today, February 9th, at least one child didn't come to school because they didn't have proper clean attire. I have a friend with 3 children whose apartment doesn't have a washer and dryer. I can remember several times I would sit in her hallway with her while she would wash their clothes for school in the bathtub one piece at a time, just so her kids would have something clean to wear to school the next day. If I were going to talk about equity, we have to talk about access. At the very least, that could mean clothing partnerships, scholarships, respectful clothing distribution programs, and access to loaner clothing that is appropriate. My child has been told things about her body, her clothes and her body at a time when she was just beginning to understand what it means to have a body. Today, a child skipped lunch because of how they felt in their body. I've spent countless hours standing in dressing rooms with my daughter while she tried on different styles of polo shirts. More than once, those moments ended in tears because nothing felt comfortable.
Mrs. Ratcliffe, do you have yours written down that you can share
I do, but
with
can
us?
I just finish it?
Well,
Please keep
respectful
these
of
things
everyone's
in mind as you move forward. I truly hope you have a body and lifestyle that allow you to comfortably follow these policies written in the handbook. Because the truth is, not everybody does. I could stand here and ask you to accommodate these people, but tonight I'm asking for something better than that. Please consider removing the current dress code and working together to create something new, something more equitable, more inclusive, and better for all children. Thank you.
Anybody else miss the sheet? Let me get back to my.
Can I address the crowd and just thank you for coming and giving them, like, I think we should provide a response that will follow up with them with something be appropriate.
Yeah. Derek, do you have the, I know we have a PowerPoint presentation later on. Can you pull that up on, we're going to be talking about board objectives. Can you pull that up for a second here? One of the things, and in these public meetings, just for the community, it's hard to respond to everything live, so we're always careful. We want to make sure to research things. Some things we can keep in our heads, but not everything. And later on tonight, there's a, we're going to review this on board objectives. Go to the next one, please, Derek. One of the things that we're focused on this year, the board, and the last board started this as well too, but there's some objectives we're looking at, and they break into 6 areas. And if you stay after this, you'll hear the actual presentation. But the third one, there's about 21 items on the list, and the third one there is dress codes. So the board is actually looking at the dress code right now. I want you to know that you're being heard. Now, how that all comes out, it's still early in the process. But I want you to know that is on the list, and the board is something the board is looking at. So, board members, I don't know, do you want to add anything? I know we're going to cover this a little later, but
Just real quick, I appreciate everybody for coming in. I think that that's important information. I learned a lot from you guys. If anybody has any follow-ups, feel free to email us or me. I think the more specific feedback we have, the more helpful it'll be. Like some of the ideas like vendor partnerships or shirts with collar, different things that your students are having trouble with specifically with the code would be helpful for our surrounding areas. That's something that I'll definitely commit to looking into. So, I think you guys coming here tonight, it's definitely helpful for us, and we'll try to, we'll do a review and provide a thoughtful response. I can't make any promises on how it'll turn out, but I haven't been here for the development as a new board member. I wasn't here for the development, but we're reviewing what the purpose of this policy is, and hearing your feedback on the effect of the policy is very helpful. So we'll definitely keep that in mind and hopefully provide you guys with some feedback. And if you shoot me an email, I'll invite you to the next meeting when we have additional information on the dress code. And we can kind of go from there.
All right.
yeah. And if anybody wants to send me your notes, I'll make sure to get that to the board as well too, because we take notes, and then we also actually watch the video and we take notes from there too. I took a couple, but we'll if you have things like even if you have anything, it's not really a back and forth because it's kind of
Just a clarifying question. Are these topics usually on meetings like today, or is it mainly on the working meeting days?
It depends. Like today, later on tonight, we're going to talk about transportation and our new contract coming up, and also some alternatives there possibly. So typically in the work session, it's a little easier for us to work on some things or manage things, and then we get to the larger meetings. So, yeah.
And one other thing I'll mention too is it would be very good to have your notes, because we get a lot of input for dress code from the administration. So the principals and the people that are in charge of the buildings, they give a lot of input on what we are recommended for the dress code. So all your information would be very helpful to share with those decision makers also.
That's a good point. We are planning on having a meeting with teachers to get their feedback too. So we're getting feedback from a lot of different perspectives to try to come up with something that fits everybody's needs. So that's a good point. I wanted to let you guys know that too.
Yes, one of the things that the board has directed that we get some input from staff through our work session, so I'll be following up with them as well too, and the principals, so.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Our first presentation is district financial forecast.
So Mrs. Drummy's we'll pull up a couple PowerPoint slides here. If you recall, we had 2 meetings ago, we had the financial presentation, and then Mrs. Drummy always does a reconciliation of things. And then at the work session, we also had some updates there, and the board voted, and we thought just to level set, make sure everyone's looking at the same information, we're gonna put that up on the screen, and I think, Mrs. Drummy, you're just gonna go over a light update here from your reconciliation and what the board approved at the work session.
Right. So with our review processes, as we were going through, noticed some activity that will not be part of future planned activity with intra-fund transfers. So between February 9th, when we approved the first forecast, there were some revisions made to reduce intra-fund transfers. And Derek, if you could show the revised, and so this is then what was approved at the work session. And so in the revised, we've eliminated some of those intra-funds. It's activity just within the general fund. And it actually has no change. If you can scroll to the bottom, no change for the first 2 years in our ending cash. And future years, our cash actually improves. So we just wanted to be, transparent, since we had approved at our regular business meeting, but then talked about some of this activity, and we needed to have the board, I needed to have you approve it so we could submit by the end of February. So that was the only reason that we approved it kind of off schedule. And so just wanted to share what had transpired.
All right, questions? All right.
Ready for the next presentation?
Yes.
I wanted to do, I think it's good for people to know, just a quick overview of all the work we've been spending. And looking at board objectives, we just referenced that a few minutes ago. And I have a copy here of a PowerPoint, so it'd be easy just sometimes to see it here because your screens are small. But some of the, if you go to the next slide, please. With the board, one of the things we're doing is looking at objectives, and we've been looking at different ideas and all, and we really have them in 6 areas there, so I have them represented. 5 of those areas come from the state of Ohio, and they're very much tied to superintendent evaluation process, which very much aligns with board objectives. Very few times you see divergence there, and treasure is similar. But this model here is actually from the OSBA, School Boards Association. They had a 6th area there, which is the leadership and special projects. So just to read those real quick. So when we're going through things, we're trying to look and see where they fit, and what our focus is. So that first one is on vision, continuous improvement, and focus on district work. So we're looking at some areas there that will fit under that category. Communication and collaboration, another area. Policies and governance, those are more of the mechanical aspects of things we have to do, but yet very important. Instruction, teaching, and learning is an area that we're focused on. Resources, fiscal management, some of you just saw that earlier with what Mrs. Drummy went through. And again, there's that last area that's been added by Ohio School Boards Association, which is leadership and special projects. And we've had things like that. If you recall, a few years ago, we had the General Miles Matter and how we partnered with the city. That would be one that fits under there. So, are there any questions about those 6 areas and how we're organized? The next slide, and I referenced this just a few minutes ago, when the board, I know we spent some time on it, but a lot of good ideas. We have 21 areas that we've talked about, and I just grabbed some of the ones that are, I would say, of a higher priority right now for different reasons. But one of the things we looked at is volunteerism, and we're talking about how to get more volunteers into the schools. I think we've seen some good work on that. Most recently, some of the areas have been with our Readers Leaders program, and what Mrs. Wagner has been starting and actually cultivating there at the elementary school, trying to help the teaching and learning process there, and also brings people in to see what we're doing in the schools. Our curriculum committee meets often, and we're on a 5-year curriculum cycle, very proud of that work. So that's something that I say is always going to stay at the forefront, very, very important. And it's one of those things you're never going to arrive, it's a process. So we have a 5-year cycle the board has adopted. We're in year 4, next year will be year 5, and then we restart the process again. Dress code, as I mentioned, that's an area that the board's looking at. So I know you've given me some direction on that, probably some things to look at, but I will be talking with the staff about that. There are some teachers have reached out, and I'm going to work with the administration as well too, and some thoughts about not only the actual dress code, but the management of it, loss of instructional time and what's been taken there, or the time that's been taken. So definitely going to be working on that. I wanted everyone to recognize that. Transportation by priority, this is one of our highest priorities right now because of timing. Our next presentation will go a little more in depth in this, but this is about, we're at the end of our 5-year contract with community bus service. The last board in 2025 made this a priority, so we're continuing that work, and our contract expires at the end of the fiscal year. And then one of the things the board has asked for, and you'll see this in the next presentation, is going a little deeper and looking at some alternatives with transportation, including, we've talked about routes, and should those routes be exactly the same, and are there some changes? So I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you'll have some aspects of that you'll hear next. Actually, it'll be quite in-depth because you'll see models of what our work is so far. School safety, always a priority for us, something that we continue to work on. Some things we talk about, some we don't, because you want to stay vigilant, but also it's a matter of not always showing everything that we do, so that it keeps it somewhat confidential. But a lot of work there. I'm proud of the focus there that is occurring. Economic development, always an area of focus for us, and that's really translates to business partnerships and how we're working with developers as well too. So a focus there. These aren't in any specific order right now, except for transportation, like I said. There's some tasks that need to be accomplished. We have classified contracts that are due at the end of this year, and also some administrative contracts depending on their cycles. So those are important by the end of June. And then facilities, we've got building projects going on right now, so things that we need to follow up there. You see some of the earthwork, or some of the earth is being moved out here, and there's some processes there we're involved with. Same thing with North Campus, and then we opened the back of the building here, which is a celebration, and some more focus there. So again, just a sample there, and there's 21 areas, and we'll put those into the objectives and decide on timelines and priorities there. But I thought it'd be good for just to kind of level set and review that. Is there anything the board wants to cover in that, or any more in depth? Again, I didn't bring all 21. We'd be here for hours doing that. But
I'll do, for the public again, I'll just say that we do have different committees too, where we focus on different aspects of our goals. So those are all public meetings. If you guys want to come to those, it's another opportunity to interact. There's usually 2 board members on each committee. So I'm on the policy committee. I haven't had anyone come visit me yet at a policy meeting. Because they're pretty dry, but but it's another opportunity for you guys to. We care about what you guys think, and we love the feedback. So and for our goals, feedback on goals. So
anything else from the board? Okay, so we'll take feedback today, and we're going to talk about transportation next, and then we'll continue that work at our work session. This will follow up through the rest of this year. Really trying to finish up any tasks. I'll say some important things about transportation contracts, some other timelines, but then also the future visioning is important too. Where we want to become, not only next year, but years into the future. So if there's nothing else, I think we're going to transition to the next presentation, which is our transportation contract. Is that okay?
Yep.
And I have with us, we have 3 representatives from Community Bus Service here. One of the things I'm going to give you as the board, when we had our last work session, we had some representatives from CBS there, and during that presentation, and I know we spent a little bit of time on this, the board had asked some questions and some further research that needs to be conducted. just to level set, and then we'll go through and we'll put up on the board what you have in your hand. But our current walk zone is about 1.5 miles. There's some safety provisions, so it's not exactly 1.5 miles places, but it's about 1.5 miles from each of the schools. And one of the things that the Board of Education has asked is, should that be different in some way, right? So we've looked at, should the distance be shorter? Should it be a matter of looking at some thoroughfares or some major roadways? Should we be crossing those? What about developments? We have a few situations where we're dividing developments, so part of the development receives bus service, some doesn't. Then obviously the implications for all this, including financials, right? Because it could be, costly. So what we'd like to do today is kind of jump into this work and show you the next step here. Kelly, are you going to lead the first part of this presentation?
I can.
Okay. Derek, can you throw up the first PowerPoint? Kelly, I'll start and you jump in and help me.
Okay.
Do you want to introduce all of yourselves?
Thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah.
You're the
Certainly.
expert.
I'm Kelly Blessing. I am the site supervisor here for the Johnstown-Monroe facility. This is Mr. Chris Reed. He is our regional director. And Mr. Julian Thomas. I don't know Julian's title anymore.
I'm the vice president of community bus services. And community bus services is also my family owned.
Yeah, is your dad still around?
He's still around. He's slowing down.
Slowing down.
I think Julian's doing a good job. We're seeing less of Terry and
That's
more
the
of
goal.
Julian. So I think that's the
Well,
process.
that's a good transition.
Yeah, so what we have up here, Derek, can you limit that on the right side? We'll take the JES walk zone, should be your first one. Okay, so where we left off, and I want to show you this, what you see there in that rose color, red color with the red dots, that is around JES, so the elementary school, and that's what we've denoted as about 1 mile walk zone. And I say about because there's some safety areas in there too, so if you were to extend it, if you looked at, we talked about this earlier, Derek had a question, if you look at the large red dot, that's approximately where the elementary school is, and you can see how much real estate there is below and above that, so it's not exactly equal, because there's some safety issues there. And then what the board has asked also is if we had a walk zone around the elementary school, but we did not have to cross 37 or 62, this is what this would look like. So again, this is 1 mile with, I'll call it like the safety provisions, not crossing those major thoroughfares there. So 37 and 62. And then anything in the blue dots that you see around is really, those would be transportation area that we would start providing bus service to. So some of those areas, we have the earlier maps I know you've seen, but our current walking path is, or current walk zone is about 1.5 miles, so this is significantly smaller. So kind of wanted to show you what that looked like from our last meeting. So thoughts, questions about this? Any feedback?
So this would, 93 JES students, that's the additional students that would be.
Yeah, so good question.
Am I
So-
jumping ahead? Or?
No, not at all. So one of the things that makes this a challenge is, and it's with kindergarten. So we have to, Kelly's leading this and has done a nice job. And what she does is she rolls everyone up. We always do that anyway. So we know about where the patterns are. So first grade, second, and so on. What we don't know is in kindergarten. Our kindergarten class this year is much smaller than it had been in past years. And we're about 82, it's been up to about 85 this year, back down to about 82. And we're watching kindergarten registration. When I talked to Mrs. Wagner at the elementary, I think we have 79 families already expressing an interest in kindergarten, so we've benchmarked about 100. To put that in perspective, last year, our kindergarten was 122. That's where we ended the year, so significantly smaller. So there's some assumptions made in this. Now, one of the things that make this really difficult, and Kelly and the team is really has done a great job of this, but you have to make some approximations. We don't know when we get additional kindergarten students exactly where they're going to live. If they're a legacy family and they have other children in the school district, we know where they're going to live. But if they're new or there's going to be some children we don't know, so will they be in the walk zone? Will they be in the, so we've taken our assumptions and, put that into place. So that's about what we see right now, or we can project. It might change a little bit, but not substantial. When you zoom out on this a bit, and you'll see this tie in with the intermediate, we also have brought in and thought about what would it take to service this area and also the intermediate school. Remember, we have a two-tiered system, so the bus would serve both, you know, intermediate and elementary. So we've put some assumptions in there too. Kelly, what am I missing from elementary school?
I think you've pretty much covered a lot of it, especially with the kindergartners. The blue dots really on here indicate, you know, as of current, these students would become eligible for transportation. So you would be adding, you know, some service for them. But it does prevent anyone crossing the major thoroughfares of 62 and 37, which I think that's a huge goal for us, especially with the safety factors.
And it's based on the age of the students too. These are all elementary school students that may not be as aware of traffic concerns as the students get older.
So did we look at, is that 93 total new riders would be eligible, or is that the total factored down by our anticipated riding percentage? Does that make sense?
So basically, when I switched everyone over into this area to be eligible for transportation, the 93 is what I currently have. Adding the kindergartners into here, wherever they're coming into play, would add more to the 93.
So it would be 93 total students that would add to the bus route if all of them rode?
If all of them rode, correct. Mm-hmm.
Kelly, can you explain, or any of you for that matter, can you talk about the size of our passenger buses and 2 versus 3 students per seat and how that factors into your algorithm here or your math in terms of
All of our
ridership?
buses are 72 passenger capacity. That is for basically elementary school age children. They are allowed to fit 3 to a seat with the elementary. You cannot have them go over the seat barrier. Then that becomes, you know, non-safe. And sometimes then you do have to move down to the 2 passenger per seat. So when we take a look at this and we say, okay, we can approximately fit 72 elementary students on a bus, that is a lot because, you know, they have their coats and all their stuff and, you know, it does become a little crowded on the bus. But it is still legal with them. So middle school and high school, then your numbers change a little bit.
You do typically about 2 to a seat, right?
2 to a seat, correct.
Okay.
When we talked about this last, there was an estimation of adding 1 bus. Do you still feel comfortable with that?
This would be
Is
2
this
buses.
adding 2 buses.
When you
This
see
would
the
be 2.
intermediate, it'll be a second bus is what this would.
So one of the things we wanted to look at was a separate analysis if we just did a change to the elementary school. So if I'm crunching the numbers in my head, 93 students, did we get a number on what our average ridership is of eligible riders? So out of, if there was 100 kids currently, what percentage of those are actually accepting the bus services?
For elementary, it's usually about 90 to 95%.
Okay.
Middle school, high school, it's a little less.
One of the things the board asked about, I think it's a good question about how many buses to add in this too. We have a 2-tiered system, so if we add to the elementary, it's going to add to the intermediate as well too. So our next slide, when we're ready for that, we'll show you what that looks like too. And then the question comes, and then we're going to need some direction tonight, is we're also going to have those drivers. Then they're going to come in typically early, so they're going to do middle school, high school for their first run, and then their second tier then is the intermediate elementary. Now, we were talking, and we don't jump ahead to the high school, middle school, but you know, there are some different routes that occur with middle school, high school, specifically high school, and like career tech, for example, you know, a C-Tech and all too. So. Kelly, Derek, you want to roll up to the intermediate? So what you're going to see here, it's your second page, on the back of your first page. This will be the intermediate school, and this is an update also since the board has seen this. And what you see there is, you know, similar process. You have the red area, which is your walk zone. And then we have the intermediate, and then anything outside of that red would now be, you know, transported. Now, you would have some, well, you're going to have some students on 37 there, which is what we're going to have to look at. on that too. We also have, I don't think we have any developments in Ice Lake Crawford, or Concord Crossing is all in the walk zone.
That is a walk zone.
Okay, that's all in the walk zone, so that is all unified, and I know that's one of the things we looked at before. Now you notice though, without crossing 62, that Rolling Meadows new addition is now a transportation area. So there would be no crossing of 62. And again, this intermediate route would mate with the elementary, so.
Correct.
And a similar process. Or Kelly, you want to talk about numbers there or anything? This is a little easier because we roll up and predictability is a little easier,
Correct,
right? Yeah.
correct. So the blue dots on this map indicate students that are currently this year in 4th grade who would roll up to 5th grade. So these students would become eligible for bus service. It's a little difficult to do that with the 3rd, and and then of course 5th graders, they're on a different tier because then they go to middle school.
And the green dot there toward the top, that's the elementary school, correct, or in that area?
Yes,
Generally in the area?
It's general area.
Okay. That's
correct.
all why that's there.
So remind me again, which the intermediates ride with what other groups?
Elementary.
Elementary, okay.
So because when we talked at the work session, this would still require some students to cross over 37. I think that brings up another conversation. Mrs. Davis and Mr. Frazier and I participated with the meeting with the city, which I know the board's aware of when we're talking about crossing guards. Jurisdictionally, that's the city, but that would be something that we would talk to them about and try and help on some of those intersections, and I think they're interested in a plan. Yeah. They want to do some engineering on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's really good for people to know, is that we did have a conversation with the city. And so in addition to like busing and potentially changing those routes, we're also looking at what other areas of the community, whether it's increased signage, lights, crossing guards, that's gonna be definitely a joint effort. But so we are looking at this from more than just adding additional students to busing, but all around the community. How do we make anyone who's walking to school, make it safer?
Remembers anything about this map? This is a little more refined than what you've seen at the last work session.
No, and I think these are about the numbers we were anticipating. I mean, it's not, she knows this community well enough that she kind of was like, I'm gonna spitball, but you were pretty dead on,
pretty
so.
good.
She's taken that
Yeah.
data at the last meeting and then really
Yeah.
refined it, so.
This is very helpful, and I know it was a lot of time, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else with the intermediate? If you go to the next slide, that one will be a compilation of middle school and high school. We didn't separate it because we're on essentially the same campus, yeah. Now what we did here is we haven't made any modifications to this route yet, so you still, or these routes, you still have a 1.5 mile walk zone about, there's some safety issues. You go farther down on 37, that's not a mile, but we transfer for safety reasons. But this is basically in its current form for the most part. And we haven't really modified this at all.
Can I go back one step? So there's no 4th graders in the Leafydale area? Is that why there's no dots up there?
We currently bus Leafydale for 4th and 5th grade.
Okay, that's makes sense, okay, that's why. All right, sorry.
So with this map, we'll have to talk because we would have the ability to make some adjustments here if you wanted. Now, it's probably not gonna be a 1-for-1 because your middle school, especially like I said before, your high school is gonna require more in the form of transportation. We've got some different routes that we're running right now, some non-publics in the morning that are earlier, I think, and then certainly we've got a few special ed and, like I said, career tech and all too. So it's a little heavier load, that first tier, I'll say. But
Yes.
would you like us to look at this map at all and try to see if we can, because we'll have some staff, to see if we can make some adjustments?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I mean, I think, it's not that we don't want to, I just think at this time, when we, given the finances of what it would cost to add 2 additional buses, and for the community to know, to potentially add 2 more buses over a 5-year period is $1 million. So it's not that we don't care, but we also have to be good financial stewards of the community's money, and so, you know, we sifted through a lot of different things, and I think we said, if we have to prioritize, it's the safety of those younger students, like you said, crossing those major areas, and so, you know, I think that we feel comfortable with the plan we have and the data we have.
And the question you might ask is, why haven't we done this prior to now? Right, but there was a change in the law. Kelly can probably, we had some discussions on whether or not we could do this, because we've changed the radius, we've changed some things. And then legally, they've just made a change within the state policy that would allow us to do this. So it is by school now, instead of within the school district. So that was a policy change that the state made, which allows us to then look at this as an issue for our community.
Anything else you want us to look at? Because what we can do as a next step is continue to refine this, double check our work, and then we can talk at the work session. And at some point, like I said, one of our highest priorities this year is looking at that transportation contract, and then we've also talked about this as alternates to that contract. So we have the core contract, and we look at, do we want to add to it? What Mrs. Davis said is important, though. Adding one bus, we benchmarked at about $110,000 a year. 2 buses, about $220,000. And we pulled that across the forecast. We're gonna need some time to do that because that's over $1 million. That's gonna add just for those 2 routes for the 5 years. And it's actually slightly more than that because we negotiated the contract that $220,000 for the 2 routes there'll be an escalator that we'll have to draw through the forecast and show you what that increase would look like over a 5-year forecast. Is there anything else you want us to?
What would be the timeline if we did make a decision on this? Would it be implemented in the 2026-2027 school year? Would it be something that we would do later?
Now, it's something we've talked to CVS, and, you know, there's some constraints here with time. We're still in that acceptable window, though. We want to see if we can get the core contract negotiated, then we would add this. But if we can get this done, say, before the end of the school year, I think there's a fair chance we can implement this for the 26-27 school year. That allows them to think about the fleet and then also staffing, because you're gonna need both, and whatever other supports you need, because I'm sure there's variables when you have so many routes, you have to add additional supports.
So refresh my memory real quick again. We have, these blue dots are all the eligible students that could,
As of today.
all the, so it's, okay, not just current riders, but it's all the students that are enrolled in Johnstown.
These are all the ones that have opted in for
So
transportation.
you just opt-ins, okay.
Correct. Yeah, we do the opt-in process, and that occurs, you know, over the summer.
And we didn't see a lot of open capacity in any of our current buses, like to jiggle the routes. Is that, did we have?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
No, they're really run very efficiently, and we've maximized you know, our buses to cover everything.
I absolutely agree with that. Kelly, one of the things that's interesting is I think we have to look too we have 52 square miles in the school district too, so sometimes it's gonna look as though maybe a bus isn't completely full, especially if you're going to the southern ends of the district, and we're not that dense there now, but that could change over time. So you're gonna see a bus that might look half full, but then that's the time commitment, you know, as opposed to the capacity. And we know that's the most challenging part of the entire routing aspect, because there's so many adjustments. There's sometimes it's a one-way, you know, single traffic, and that's that bus 2, I think, isn't it?
Bus 2,
runs down there, so that's the one that's the most challenging to keep on schedule, because the traffic patterns keep changing sometimes with development down there.
Yes, that's correct.
Dr. Wagner, to put you on the spot a little bit here too, would you say that busing increases safety levels by decreasing traffic coming through from parents dropping off? Is that a fair assumption?
I think we can analyze that. I mean, I think that makes some sense, but I think that, you know, we want to analyze that a bit. I think there's 2 parts of that. We see increased capacity, at least I shouldn't say that because I don't know exactly, but it appears there's increased capacity. I can tell you, and I think we can all objectify it to say that we see different types of vehicles now on our roads, including a lot of dump trucks and other trucks. And, you know, we've been aware of some concerns that people haven't really honored, sometimes the intersections or crosswalks. So I have some concerns there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a concern. We can also look at probably have to do some analysis about how many parents this would take off the campus as well, too. One of the challenges we have, when we think about our next build, which will be either a high school or middle school, one of the things that's done in construction now is to separate your traffic. I know when I was working in the neighboring school district, we had the high school traffic separated into 4, so there's no commingling. So you had your students, students, visitors, staff, and buses all in separate flow. That doesn't happen now. We're a small district, and the architecture is the architecture. But I think having some of those parents out of the flow would help a little bit because we're intermingling right now. We try to stagger it by time. It doesn't work out perfectly. But yeah, we can look at that as well. Anything else the board wants to look at, or?
I do have one more question.
Anyone else besides Jesse? No.
So it goes back to my last question of what these blue dots represent. Specifically, I'm looking at the JES walk zone.
Derek,
You
can
said
put
those
that
were
back up?
opted-in
Yeah.
bus riders.
Jesse, we'll put it back up so that people can look.
So the blue dots, basically, before I did the adjustment to the 1 mile with the safe of no crossing 62 or
JES.
37 for JES, all of these students were in the walk zone.
Okay.
So
that's
when
that population's 100% of
Right,
eligible
so
kids,
when
okay.
I went in and readjusted everything and made everyone eligible that was in that walk zone available for transportation, that's where the 93 come into play.
Now it makes sense. Okay, I just wanted to get that clarification.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we don't know who's going to accept.
Yeah,
but
this is the
and
maximum
sometimes
population,
parents,
which is a good place to
have
start.
advantages because they're driving to work and they,
Correct.
or they have different events they want to manage. But we thought the way you have things modeled that we should have more than what we're expecting, right? I mean, everything you're benchmarking and possibly up to 2 buses would cover
Correct.
everything. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. We didn't want to bring to you possibly 2 routes or 2 buses and then need a third, so.
Does 2 buses give us a little bit of extra capacity and flexibility? Is that?
It does.
Okay, that's good too.
It does.
Well, and we don't want to plan for them to be full because I feel like you're going to like you said, you're probably going to have to move routes a bit.
Yes.
And so you might have more that are driving further out or whatever, and so you're right, you don't want them to be
Correct.
planned to be full.
And Kelly, remind us, how many current in-district routes do you have right now this school year?
In district
Yes.
is 8.
Okay, so this would take us to 10 if we added these 2 routes.
Correct.
So by there, that would even give you some flexibility, look at all the 10 routes as a,
Absolutely.
divide by 10 as opposed to 8, and that'll
Absolutely.
probably
That-
give a little relief in a couple places, right?
That's
'Cause
one
your
of my
rates
big
are
summer
10.
projects
Yeah.
this year is now to.
Well, and we even talked about Route 2, like I already said, that's the traffic pattern in the distance, but is there some way to get a little more relief, and there we could build a buffer?
Correct.
If we had the bus coming for C-Tech, if we have 2 extra buses, would there be any chance that we would be able to have a route where the high school students are picked up and then they can be taken over to C-Tech? Because right now, I believe they come in, I think they drive in order to make the C-Tech bus. Or did that change?
So they have
Did that change?
if those students are in the transportation zone, the 1.5, they do have the option of riding the district, the in-town buses into, which we do have several students that do that. They'll ride their basically their home bus into the middle school area, and then they will transfer over to bus 11, which is the C-Tech bus. So, and then they're transported to school. And then a lot of the high school students, they prefer to drive and just come and park at the school area and then get on the C-Tech bus, which is totally fine. They have those 2 options.
Yeah.
Just a question.
Kelly, we miss anything?
I don't think so.
Board members, anything
No.
else? Jesse?
Thank you.
Good. No, seriously, I mean, now's the time, give it, because this is a lot of work, and I can't take credit for it, it's really CBS, but if there's more, we'll bring this to you as the next iteration, but we're getting pretty close now to having the analysis done.
When's the date where you guys want us to give you a heads up, heads down on what the plan's gonna be? Do you have like a preferred and then a drop dead deadline that we can keep in our minds?
We told them by the end of the year we would try to get that, and they said that was okay with them.
Yeah, we're still,
I think that
we
gives
still have
us
plenty of
something
time.
to roll. Okay, all right, end of the year.
Yeah, because that gives them a couple months. That, you know your work better than we do, but you're gonna do a lot of work in routing over the summer. We're gonna be feeding you, updated enrollment information, and then you'll do your dry runs so you'll have a sense of how this fits together. But even the contract, Mr. Koplos, try to get everything organized by the end of the year.
One of the things, it's not routing, but from a staffing standpoint, if by chance we're having an issue with staffing, which I will say Kelly's been 100% service this year, but all of our locations have, because we share staff. So if we're short somewhere, she'll call our Columbus site supervisor and say, hey, I need 2 for tomorrow. And they make it work. So it's one of the benefits of being with a contractor like CDS.
Yeah. You also have another area school district you draw from this sometimes, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if worse comes to worse, I drive.
Yes, I know. we were working on this presentation and she wasn't available. And I said,
I wear many hats.
Drive and work on this presentation, but she wanted to focus on driving, so we appreciated that.
So.
And you were once a driver for
I was once a driver,
so
yes.
She's experienced, right?
Yes.
If there's nothing else, then,
No.
we'll keep the board up. I do want to thank, they all came here
Absolutely.
today.
You're welcome. Appreciate
It
it.
has
We
been a
appreciate it.
tremendously
You're welcome.
professional relationship. A couple years ago, Mr. Busenberg, when he transitioned to his role, really helped facilitate with CBS and made some changes, and really appreciate all of you, and specifically 3 of you, because you've done so much to get us here. Kelly's a wizard when her interface works as well too, and Chris is very helpful, and Julian's always picking up the phone when we call, so we do appreciate the partnership, and we'll keep you updated, and we'll let you know next steps, and as well as the board, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for our presentations tonight.
Yes. And then we've got board committees.
We have first one is buildings, grounds, safety, and construction. I believe Mrs. Thomas was there, and Mr. Frazier.
Yes, Steve and I met with you and Derek. Derek Busenberg was out of the country at the time, so we met without you, sorry. We talked about the newly renovated baseball, softball, wrestling, cheerleading. We took a tour afterwards. It's very nice. They've done a very nice job to renovate. It doesn't even look like the same place. I know we don't have a before and after picture available right now, but I think we do on our website.
Oh, Craig has all kinds of archives. Yes.
But it's very nice, and we were able to see the students using it as well, so that was great. And we talked about we need some more signage around the area here at the Chambers Way, as well as the police signage, and I think all of that's been done except for maybe 2, the
We're working
stop
on that with the
sign.
city and,
Yeah, I think
placement and all too.
And I think Derek Holder had said he had met with Chief Smart, Jack Liggett, and so I'm hopeful those things are
Yep.
being taken care of.
They're in process.
Also, they talked about the JHS addition and athletics construction punch list. Those are on track. Spring, summer sidewalk. At the JHS, we have the chain that goes along the parking lot and the front lawn of JHS. There wasn't a sidewalk put in there, but now that we've been in the building a few years, you can see the pattern where the kids walk. So we're gonna go ahead and do that for a spring project, put the JHS sidewalk in. I think that'll help, and it'll also help keep the mud from getting into JHS. I understand that that's quite intensive, and as we all know, it's mud season right now, as all the snow's melted in the water. So we've reviewed the district parking lot as well. We've got some ceiling cracks that we need to do. There was a FCCLA speed bump project where a grant was received for $5,000. We're looking at that. We don't really have too much information yet on that, but they were awarded $5,000. We were discussing what that might look like. We've talked about, since we're not here at the JIS, at Chambers Way, as you go down the side of JMS, down where our fields are, we've talked about how that's like just a bit of a raceway there and possibly a speed bump. We've talked about it at different times, but now there's actually a grant, so we're gonna explore that a little bit more. And then just some other maintenance items that they were talking about. And we were talking about our gym floors being refinished, and that's gonna be something that we take a look at, probably more information at our next meeting. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'll just say, like, as a first-time attendee at the Buildings, Grounds, and Safety meeting, I was quite impressed by all the different projects that are going on by Mr. Busenberg and Mr. Holter. Just a ton of time and things moving at once. Pretty impressive to see, like, as a rookie.
Welcome to the committee where you get to move around. Very happy for you. Yeah.
We get to take chores. That's the fun part.
Curriculum, athletics, and extracurriculars met on March 4th, and that was Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Thomas.
Yes. So we, teachers, staff, board members, we are still looking and reviewing different options for social studies curriculum for next year. But we will also have vendor presentations from our top 2 options at our March 23rd work session, which is really great. We also talked about some summer PD days. Anytime we have new curriculum, it's really important that teachers have time to get familiar with the content, the online material, all of that. So just like in years past, we plan to provide summer PD days for them for social studies. Principals shared high-level updates on content. Principals shared anywhere between 5 or more minutes updates. So they were supposed to all have 5 minutes, but what I will say is the principals were so excited to share so many things that Grace's face, there were a lot of, she was waiting in the hallway. Here's what I'll say. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about each building's how they are implementing tutoring, whether that was something started in the fall, that they're planning to continue in summer. And these are things that we have been able to provide a little bit earlier every school year, which has been really good. We've been able to look at our data sooner and say, why would we wait to January to help provide support for students if we know they need it in September or October, which is really great. I think that each building has done a really good job looking at the needs of their individual students, whether it's before school, taking a little bit of time during the day, in school, after school, providing the incentives for students to be a part of it. It's been really, really tremendous and cool stuff to hear about. I will not be able to go into a lot of the specifics, but they did a great job kind of giving us an update on where they were with things. We also had an opportunity to look at the special education profile summary. It's very similar to a school report card. Grace gave us a really good, Grace Wagner gave us a really good insight to lots of variables that are included as a part of that. One of the things about things like school report cards and the special education profile summary is data always lags a couple years behind. And so as a parent, as a teacher, as a board member, you can see numbers, you can see stars, you can see met, not met, and it can be really concerning. Often that data is 2 to 3 years behind, and so we've gotten assurances from Grace. I mean, we feel really great about where we are with things and hope to see some different scores changing in the next couple years with some really positive things we've implemented. We also talked about athletics. The softball trip is coming up. We have 28 student athletes, varsity and JV, 6 parent chaperones. They're really excited for that trip. We also talked about the new facilities here, alleviating some scheduling issues, which has been really great. More space, more opportunities to not have to cram into the same building. Also, wrestling has an overnight tournament coming up as well, so wishing them the best of luck. Very exciting. And last thing we just kind of reviewed was anticipated resignations and
Staffing?
yes, I was thinking,
Staffing,
yeah, I was thinking retirement. Yes, resignations and retirement that we anticipate might be happening this year, and starting to think forward for next year as how we shift and fill those positions.
Good. And then we have finance that met on March 2nd.
Well, finance is not as exciting as the 2 that went before us, but we're the make sure we have money people. So we are diligent to try to do that because all these initiatives that we have take money to have them implemented, right? So we focused mainly, we always talk about the 5-year forecast to make sure we have the money, and Felicia said some changes to our forecast earlier in this meeting. But two of the main items that we talked about were revenue type items, okay, that we talked about. One is, and you'll see on our agenda tonight, we're asking for some 2025 tax year property valuation complaints that we're filing within the county. What happens is we have property that's being developed within our school district, and this property was farmland, usually under CAUV, and some entities have bought these properties, and they've paid many times the estimated value of those properties. So we think that those properties are now intended to not be farmed anymore in the future. So we want to make sure that we get the right tax base for those properties going forward, because that's a revenue stream for us. So that's one thing, you'll see a number of them. And we have to file individually based on the entity that bought it. And they have the right to challenge that complaint, right? So if they bought it and paid many times its value and they say, I'm still going to farm instead of developing it and putting a plant or a factory or something there, they can also file an objection to our complaint. So it's not a given, but most of the time it's going to be a given because that's why they bought it. And then the other thing that we talked about was we have various agreements when people develop our properties and do industrial or commercial. And one of the issues that we have is with the city of New Albany has annexed a lot of our property that's south of town. And we have some concerns because we had a clawback to one of our agreements. And that's happened a couple of times over the past several years. And where they want to claw back money that we were supposed that we thought we had. And we really want to understand that process, and that process with all our different agreements, because we have various agreements with different entities. So we're taking a look at how do we get better information so we can make a better decision to make sure that we're actually getting the money that we're supposed to get based on the contracts that we have. So we're going to take a look at a couple different options and come to the board, hopefully by our next meeting, and have a proposal to say this is what we want to try to do to make sure that we're fully receiving the funds that are due us based on our agreements with these different entities. And that's basically what we talked about. There was a couple other little minor issues that we talked about, but those are the two highlighted ones that I wanted to present today.
Yeah. Anything else with finance?
Great job, Alan.
Nope. Is that okay, Amanda?
No,
that was
I didn't
Amanda's
wanna
first time too. Finance is not very exciting, but
There's a real learning curve there.
But,
That's for sure.
what? It's not very
It's a real
exciting,
learning
but
curve.
if you don't have the money, so like, we talked about busing, right? So we want to make sure we get our, the right money that's due us because we have a forecast, right? So when people claw back money from us, it adjusts our forecasts. So it makes it hard to do some of the initiatives that we'd like to do if we're not getting the money that we think that we're due, all right? Or we have it in our forecast and then all of a sudden it's taken back, and that's a hard thing to do, to adjust to that. Because we don't want to do anything like the busing question, and I don't know what the decision of the board's going to be, but we don't want to do anything within the school district that's going to cause us to have a problem later in our life to where we have to take something back. So we want to be very careful about the things that we spend our money on because we don't want to ever have a clawback with busing, because at one time we didn't have busing here in our school district for the high school students. And we don't ever want to go back to a situation like that where we have to claw back a service that we've initiated at an earlier point in time.
To the board members, if you ever want to get off a committee, I think you got to talk about how good it is. If you already talk about policy.
Yeah.
Like you want to talk about how good it is, so then you want to make it attractive to the next board
So
member. So
fun.
if you're not going to sell these policies, it's going to be
on
hard
policy.
to,
This man is taking my place.
You got to think about it before, in the fall, we're going to start talking about policy or committee structure. So. Okay. Sorry, we were having a little sidebar just to be transparent because we were trying to make sure we had the insurance ready. So Mr. Frazier, you're going to jump in and I'll jump in where I can ever need to, right?
Yeah.
So we met, I'm sorry, on February 26th was the date.
Yeah, February 26th we got together, and It was an absolute blast. Everybody wanted to be
See, there you go. That's what
Yeah.
you do.
I've been to the meetings. I've been to the meetings.
Greatest committee ever.
No, it was very informative, especially like looking at it from a different lens. Usually I'm the person like sitting behind the computer at work, picking the right health plans and finding out, what's really important. But it was really useful. Dr. Wagner brought in a vendor, Tyler from
Gallagher?
Gallagher.
Yeah.
And his responsibility is looking at all the different health plans that are out there, making sure that we're competitive and we're being responsible, and showing us how they compare to the other healthcare plans that are out there for other districts. It was very informative, and it's a really interesting balance between being responsible with what we're spending on healthcare and making sure that we're providing the right benefits for the administration and teachers as well. Overall, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think there's still a lot of opportunity there, and I think we're looking for opportunity to find more savings in the healthcare area. But I think there's a good plan going forward for that. It was a really fun process. Also, is a little bit different from my other committee. Being able to collaborate with the teachers. Mrs. Shaver was there and kind of leading the way. It's really nice to be on a committee and work with the teachers as well and hear their input and kind of balance that back and forth. So everybody has a good understanding of the different roles, and it's also nice to have a lot of different ideas moving there too to find the best solution. What did I miss?
No, I think you covered it. It's
okay.
We had an increase of almost $310,000 this year, and the employees pay part of that, the board pays part. I think one of the things, and I said this in December, but one of the things that is important, what you said, Mr. Frazier, is having the partnership. Mrs. Schaefer is there, and she's leading with some of the other staff, but to really kind of flatten things out and have some just honest discussion. Our healthcare plans have been separated, and we started that in 2023, and we have the standard PPO, and then we also have a high deductible plan that we brought in January 23. And that high deductible plan has run more efficient the last 2 years than the PPO, but this last year ran the most efficient, and really kind of proud of that because we're starting to see the turn, I think, there. And we looked at loss ratios for this last year, so it ended in, it's calendar year 25. The loss ratio on the PPO plan was 140%, and if you're in that beyond 90%, that's not good, so we're not doing well there. In fact, we paid out claims of 1.5 million plus beyond what the premiums were, so that's a significant concern. But the high deductible plan ran at 55%, so we actually there about $479,000 to the good, so that helps offset. And like I said, for the first time ever, we have more staff now on the high deductible as opposed to the PPO. And I get the question sometimes about, are we just cost shifting? But the idea with these high deductible plans is really supposed to be an education, and it's supposed to be consumerism. So if you're spending your own dollar, to some point you're going to be more critical of that, and not just drop your card down and offer whatever the copay is. So anyways, yeah, so I think we're definitely trending in the right direction. And again, appreciate the teachers and the staff who are jumping in on that. And it's a work in progress, but we are making progress. And these numbers, I won't go through all the data, but they're getting better than they were in the last so many years. And I think that keeps the viability of our plan because, as the board said, we want to keep good costs, but also want to keep good benefits for everyone. That's part of what you attract and how you retain staff.
What was the increase for the high deductible plan of enrollment this year for 2026?
We had.
I'm curious.
Yeah, hold on for a
A
second.
former committee meeting.
Yes, now you.
But you still have to know.
That's all
It
they
went
could work.
from 46 to 60.
Oh, that was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yep.
14.
Thank you.
Yeah, which is
That's good.
significant because we had last year, well, in total, we had 66 on the PPO, and 46 on the high deductible. So that's tip for the first time, like I said. So. And I really do have to compliment Felicia and all this too, because she's been focusing on what we call Financial Fridays, and we've had different topics. Recently, she's been focused on retirement and you know, plans that you have to pick, because newer educators have to pick a plan, a benefit plan now within their first so many years of being employed as an educator. But these are some of the discussions we're involved with too, so. Okay, I think that's it for that. And policy.
Policy
Right,
was
and
the
then
most exciting.
Mrs. Davis is gonna talk about that. It's a great.
You missed
committee.
out. We had a great time. No, wish you were there. So we were able to review 15 policies during the meeting. One policy is actually a new to our district policy, and I also am really happy to say that the rest of the 14 were just revisions. And so if you see a rescind and replace, that means we've missed or we're behind by 2 different revisions, and so the fact that we got through all of those and they're just revisions, that means we were pretty more up to date on those, so that's really exciting to see as we move forward. We're seeing less and less rescinding.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Kopp, anything? I know you were there, and it was an exciting committee with you during that.
Yeah, the updates we had were pretty, they weren't drastically different on a lot of the policies that we are changing. It was more just legal language updates to be up with the most recent recommended language. I don't think there was any particular code updates, honestly, out of the ones we reviewed for the first reading that were really of note. They were all pretty administrative this time, so nothing very controversial or exciting to tell you about, but we're making progress.
Yep.
One thing I'll mention about policy, if I can inject, since I was on the committee for many years. Policy just does a broad look at what's happening and gives a framework for the school to operate from. From policy, then the administration develops handbooks, administrative guidelines, and that's how they actually run the school. So we, as a policy committee, we kind of give a broad guidance based on policy, and then it really goes back to the administrative guidelines. So one thing that you may want to look at as you look at things, it may not be the policy, but you may want to look at administrative guidelines. Might answer the questions that you may have.
Good. Technology typically meets about once a year, so that's for Mr. Benton and Mrs. Davis. We'll look to schedule that in April or
we
May.
usually do that a couple times
We're
a
already
year.
getting, you know, looking at our equipment cycles and what we need.
That's another exciting committee. We look at refreshing
That is a fun one.
the computers, you know, and Chroma boards, and I'm on all the exciting ones.
So we'll keep you updated about that. Probably April.
Yeah, April's
May,
great.
you know, we'll get on that, but we're already working on that.
Yep.
The Sibyl's working on that, but.
And we have a budget
MJ
for the
has,
technology committee, so we try to stay within our yearly budget and on the refresh cycle. So we've been doing a very good job. Debbie Seibel's been leading us for many years, right, Debbie?
Ready for local professional development
Yes.
committee? So local professional development committee met on February 19th, and those in attendance, Stephanie Stuckey, Laura Kurtz, Renee Britton, Annette Price, Robin Wagner, Abby Fitz, and Brad Weirman. They look at individual professional development plans for staff. We had 3 submitted. They did approve 2 out of those 3, and they submitted or returned 1 back for revision just because there's some questions. This committee is also charged with license renewal. So they did handle 3 staff members, and they were able to renew their licenses. They also looked at some professional development hours and needed to be approved. They did approve for staff there. And then they're looking at some work for the future, which they'll be covering at their next meeting. And then their next meeting is scheduled for March 19th, 2026 at 3:30 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
And then we have approval of consent
Yeah.
agenda.
Consent agenda number 26-03-055 is approval of consent agenda.
And can I get a motion for that?
I'll motion.
In a second.
Second.
All right, and you can go
Would you
through.
like me to go
Yes,
through and review
please.
some of these, Mrs. Davis? So I'll just do a high-level overview, but we have some unpaid days there. We don't reference why those are there, but we're recommending that the board approve those unpaid days. We have resignations of 2 staff members on the list here. One is Kathleen Schambach. Just give you a little bit of information. She's been working with the Johnstown-Monroe schools since the 24-25 school year as an intervention specialist at the elementary school. So she's ready to take that next step. And then Ray Hufford's been here for a while, and I have a separate write-up I want to read about her. But she's been here for 17 years and actually started in the 2009-10 school year. And Mr. Hancock gave a little information here I want to share. So she spent 19 years in education, 17 of which are with Johnstown-Monroe. And Mr. Hancock was talking about at the middle school how he wants to thank Ray Hufford for her dedication and care that she's shown to our students every day. She consistently goes with the extra mile. She often isn't worried about just following the clock, so she stays late where she needs to, really focusing on students and making sure they succeed. She has a general care for students that she certainly exudes, and strong support. She's a good teammate, and really just a kind of a fun favorite among staff and students, he shares. And then, he said that she'll be greatly missed, and there's some time rest of the school year. But I think 19 years is significant education, and 17 of those in Johnstown. So, and working with special needs, we do appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
We have a tutor we like to recommend, and I know I talked to the board about this, but part of what we're focused on is our teaching and learning program and providing support for staff members. So that's here on the previous staff member would come in and help one of our less experienced staff members with some academic performance, student matters. Classified employment, we have a couple staff there who we're recommending, one of whom is a student attendant, the other for food service. Supplemental employment, we don't have a lot this time of the year. We just have middle school track assistant coach listed. Volunteers, I referenced this already somewhat, but or some of them here, but this is part of this Reader Leader program that Mrs. Wagner has been leading with Mrs. Douglas at the elementary, so that's been good. And then we also have some other general volunteer positions. And then we have some athletic positions here. We have baseball for the high school and also 7th grade for softball. Board meeting minutes, so we had quite a few board meetings in February, so we have one meeting on the 9th, the 18th, and the 23rd, so you should have meeting minutes to review there. We also have a monthly financial report from Mrs. Drummy, and that's the end of that portion of consent, although, okay, there's separate resolutions next. So that's the first portion of consent, sorry.
All right, we'll call a roll and then we'll comments.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
I just wanted to say, I noticed that every single month our list of volunteers remains is a long list, and I really appreciate all of the volunteers in the schools, whether it's high school, middle school, whatever. But I also am seeing the Readers Leaders program on here, and I just, it was a part of curriculum, I should have said. But as a part of the Readers Leaders program, they come in set days of the week to read with students, and sometimes they come in on days that they don't have to come in because they just enjoy being in the building, and that was really great to hear. So thank all of our volunteers.
Resolution 26-03-056 is consent agenda, and this is going to be for complaints against valuation of real property.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
In a second.
I'll second.
Mrs. Drummy can go through and, review each of these. You have multiples here. One of the things we did talk about, though, and I was talking to Mrs. Thomas, and because of her professional commitments, I believe you're going to abstain from all of these, just in case there's any interface with your professional work, right?
That's right. I'm in the telecom business, and there is it's best to abstain.
Yeah, I think that's good. Mrs. Drummy, you want to walk us through any of these here? I know there's multiples.
Mm-hmm. So I think Mr. Benton did a good job explaining earlier why we do this. I think what isn't really apparent is how much value is really at stake and why we do this. When we challenge a property value, it's when a sale has occurred and that sale results in a change from the auditor's value, market value, of more than $500,000. So, in these properties, many of them have sold in tens of millions. And so, there is a change in value that does exceed more than $500,000 on all of these properties. Additionally, these are all for-profit entities. We never ever challenge a residential home value or an owner-occupied home. So it's very strategic, and it really is in the best interest to protect the tax base.
Nor do we challenge any farmers that may increase the land holding that they have. You know, farmland has gone up in value, so it may not be totally reflected within the city auditor, but we try to stay away from that and really target just the entities that we think are gonna do, you know, commercial or industrial buildings.
All right, call the roll.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Abstain.
And Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Resolution 26-03-057 is Phoenix Central Agreement.
Time? Oh, okay.
Which one are you looking at?
I was looking at,
Do we miss it?
yeah,
Sorry. in the number of
I'm
resolution.
still on page 7. Maybe I'm in the wrong spot.
I think you need to flip.
Number
on
8.
page 10.
Yeah, you know what, it's confusing, we put all those
Oh, I thought we had to
resolutions
vote for
together.
each
No,
one.
no,
I thought we had to
so-
vote for each
no.
one.
No, we put them all
Okay.
under resolution 56.
Got it.
So.
Okay. I
So-
was looking and I was
No,
like,
that's
that's a
fine.
lot of.
No,
okay.
no, we put them all
Thank you,
together.
appreciate that.
So resolution, as now we move the superintendent
Yes.
recognition. So resolution 26-03-057 is a
Okay.
resolution for Phoenix Central Agreement.
All right, can I get a motion for that?
I'll motion.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second.
So we don't talk a lot about this, but this is for students with special needs. We can't meet their needs in the district, so this is a separate placement.
All right, and call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Resolution 26-03-058 is Columbus City Schools Agreement.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
And a second.
I'll second it.
Similar to the previous resolution, this is for students with special needs and cannot meet their needs in our school district right now.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Resolution 26-03-059 is the second reading of revised policies.
And a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I know we've talked about this at board committees, but everything is represented here has been through the policy committee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Resolution 26-03-060, second reading of new policies.
And a motion?
I'll motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Resolution 26-03-061 is the first reading of revised policies.
And a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll
Second.
second.
All right, they're ready. Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Resolution 26-03-062 is the first reading of new policies.
And a motion?
I'll motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
No board comments?
Board comments, anyone?
I'll just make a quick comment on that we talked about the policy committee that, to communicate with everybody that looking at ideas on how to present the policy updates more transparently, you know, whether they're the attachments included here or how they're presented at the policy meeting too, just to make it easier for everybody who's here and everybody who's not at the policy meetings to kind of digest more specifics about the policy updates. So I just wanted to let you know that we are looking into that one, and hopefully we'll have some tweaks that make that a little bit easier for everybody to see what's going on.
Yeah, and so one of the things we talked about with that is when we are presented with policy, it's helpful for us to have our current one and then the proposed one, and we've got the different colors. And we want to be careful about having the ones with the, you know, different colors maybe out, people thinking it's something that's passed. So we talked about doing maybe a draft watermark on those or something, so that the time in between first and second readings, you know, those can be available to people.
I just want to thank everyone, the staff, and the kids, the students as well, because this is a hard time to be in school. Spring break is just around the corner, and spring is sprung. So I know it's difficult to focus on school and activities at school, but we need to still stay in it. We got 2 more months.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Anything else?
Anybody?
I'll congratulate the basketball team. They made it to the district finals, and it was a good run in the tournament. So just throw that out there to acknowledge them. It's exciting.
Thank you.
Both of our basketball coaches were LCL coaches of the year. Our girls basketball coach.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's really,
Yeah.
that's
And the boys basketball coach as well.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anybody else? All right, superintendent comments.
Couple things. Really proud of the work that we're able to accomplish in the school district. Mr. Shipton's been hosting some businesses coming in, and recently we had Licking Memorial Hospital and Summit Home Care come in and looking at our certified nursing assistant program. As a reminder, we just opened up that health science pathway this year, and we thought we'll start with proof of concept. So we have the certified nursing assistant, and as a reminder, if a student's a senior and they graduate for this program, they are work eligible as long as they meet all the criteria. So, but both of those facilities came in. There's some pipeline there, I think, that we can help with media employment. And then I was encouraged by both organizations too, because there's a bit of a grow your own there too. So maybe hiring some graduating students as nursing assistants, but helping them grow into potential nurses or some other positions. So thank you, Mr. Shipton, because he's having to be the host, but that's a good celebration. And we have the 8 students in that program right now and 40-some in the feeder program, and we're working on schedules at the high school, and there's probably gonna be about 24, so we might triple the size of that program for next year, and then we'll start thinking about the future and more health science pathway, probably pre-med in the future. You know, we talked about pharmacology, maybe vet tech, so some things to look at there. But thank you. We have an event exciting coming up on March 11th. We have our freshman students are going to COSI, and that's something we started a few years ago with our partnership with Intel. And they took the entire high school a few years ago. And these last years in success of moving forward, they're just take the freshmen. That way we have every student having experience. And I always enjoy that. I'm not sure there's a big reveal. Last year we had the Star Wars display, and the year before that was the Titanic display, I believe. So it was, you get to walk through the Titanic a couple years ago, and it actually felt like you were in the ship, and it was time period. Oh, Pixar.
That's
Okay,
fun.
good. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. It's always fun, I'll tell you too, with our students, because, you know, they're cool when they're in high school, but they get in there and, you know, kind of shed all that, and they get to see the environment. It's exciting. Want to certainly celebrate our vocal music program. I think there's some information coming out, I don't want to spoil it, from OMEA competition, that they've done very well, and that program continues to grow. And you'll see some of that showcased. Charlie and Chocolate Factory is starting Friday, so it'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you haven't had your tickets yet, try to see if you can get those. But that's always well worth it. I'm always impressed with how well the students do. It's just completely amazing. And then Ms. Warner does a great job leading that program. Bless you.
Bless you.
And then one of the things we're looking at also is, MJ's here still.
No, she
No,
left.
she has to leave. She's been helping lead from curriculum along with Mrs. Seibel. We have a partnership with Vantage Data Centers, and on March 25th, they're going to have a Career Tech Day. Part of it will be here, and they're going to bring some equipment and all too, so it won't just be for data centers, but it's going to be Career Tech in general. And we're actually, when we formed these partnerships with CTEC and our Career Tech programs, we told them we would invite the western side of Licking County, so we've invited Southwest Licking Schools, Licking Heights, and also Northridge to participate. So now some of them have spring breaks and other commitments, so I'm not sure they're all going to materialize. But this will be our launch of this program, and hopefully there'll be more to come, you know, with Vantage. But that's exciting to, you know, help our students see what career tech options there are. Something that I put in a weekly report, but the city is looking at their charter, so actually going to work with Mrs. Koppel on this. She's going to be part of the charter review, but there's an interest from the city about a greater partnership with the school district, and one of the things that some school districts do, and I've been a participant when I was working in our neighboring school district, is that developers would come to the school districts either before or during the time they approach the city for development. And I think that's important because we not only look at, you know, implications of enrollment and what that's going to do for our facilities, but also the economics of things as well too. So we're working with Mrs. Koppel on that and part of the larger charter commission. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think again we can get our voice out there, more forward planning. So some of this was brought up already, but just to put a fine point on it. Girls basketball exceptional year, LCL Cardinal Division champs, season of 18-5, and they went to the playoffs. Boys season of 19-6, also LCL Cardinal Division champs. Both of our coaches, Kyle Higgins and Scott Helmke, both LCL coaches of the year. So a lot to celebrate there, a lot of excitement coming off of our you know, basketball season, so, and a good building for the future. And then lastly, is just planning for the next school year, so I'm sure you all saw the announcement today, and like anything else psychologically, I'm just gonna pretend like it didn't happen, and we're just gonna keep working for the next 4 months, but my life will change, and we'll deal with that in the future, but for right now, we got about 4 more months left, and we'll just keep focusing on everything we need to this year, focusing on graduation and all too. But then, you know, certainly we have to start making some plans for the future that doesn't stop us from our objectives and, you know, what we're going to focus on and, you know, for this year and the next, because that shouldn't change just with a leadership change. But and then I think I'm going to stop there because, you know, it could get emotional. So it's good.
And we want to thank you for all that you've done. And you need to understand, too, that they wanted him to go ahead and start now, right? So he negotiated with the state that they hired an interim so that he could stay with us till July, so he could work with us to find a new superintendent and help in the transition. He did not have to do that. So that shows you the character of the person that we've hired and been with for all these years. So many thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to just say too that you've been a great leader for this district, and what an honor to be selected for that new role or that role, superintendent of the Ohio State Board. So it's a really cool reflection on his you know, professional acumen, and what a statement for Johnstown too, that it's a great reflection on our school district that you've been selected for that. And you know, as we look for a new leader, what cool shoes to fill. So well, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's well deserved.
Thank
and we're gonna miss you, but we're
thank you. Because psychologically, I'm not addressing it. I'm just going to suppress all that right now. In 4 more months, we got to work, but I know that's not healthy. But it's just this way to handle it. Yeah, no. I almost feel kind of choked up too. No, it's you know, this is Johnstown. It's a special place, guys. And you know, I like anything else, you get opportunities and all too. And I wasn't going to go to another school district, but you know, the invitation was there, and it's hard to turn that down when it's the state of Ohio. But it doesn't mean I'll be gone. And you know, there's just different levels of advocacy and. You know, it's a special place.
Can I be positive about something?
Yes, please be positive.
I think for us board members who've seen more than one superintendent, I think we have seen the tremendous positive change you've made in this district, and I think one thing that is gonna be really helpful is he really put Johnstown on the map. I mean, Intel did as well, but I'm gonna let him take the credit, that really put Johnstown on the map of a really great school district to be at. We've got great administrators, we've got dedicated teachers, and I think that he has created so many wonderful opportunities that I feel strongly that we're going to be able to attract some really talented other people to fill his position.
Well, thank you. To Mr. Cobble's point, you know, it's interesting because this process, I believe, I don't know for sure, but I've been told there's been a lot of vetting. So they were watching board meetings and, you know, background checks, I'm sure, and all kinds of things, social media. But a lot of the discussion came out about Johnstown, you know, and it's all the excitement here. And I do think the candidate pool is going to be deep here, and I think we've got good structure here. So I think, you know, the future will be bright. So, but again, we have 4 months, so we'll focus on that 4 months.
We do.
Yeah. Then we have executive session for, ready for that. So that's resolution 26-03-063. And that's for the consideration of appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employer official. And Mrs. Davis, we're not expecting any vote after
Correct.
the meetings.
No action afterwards, yep.
No.
So you're welcome to stay around, but we won't be doing anything exciting when it's over. So can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Oh.
Wait
Are you
one
yes
second.
to the adjourn? Okay. Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
And he's gone. All right.
Can we go executive session about 7:08, maybe, a couple
Okay.
minutes? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yes. Run to the restroom. He's like,
Can you make sure you get your mic